responsible anyway. I was told that today there are many events ongoing at the same time, also in the field of women, peace and security, because I was actually got invited by our previous speaker in this forum. Ibu Ruby Khalifah, she is actually organizing women, peace and security in the University of Indonesia, Depok, in a class setting. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speaker. Welcome to CSIS Indonesia. My name is Fitriani, and I'm the convener of Women, Peace and Security in regard of the ASEAN level. We know that in ASEAN, women, peace and security agenda has been a particular issue since 2017, where the ASEAN member states agree on a joint agreement on the importance of women, peace and security. It is regarded as an entry point for intervention in the area of conflict and post-conflict in the region and sub-region of Southeast Asia. And having this agenda is one of the agenda that is a low-hanging fruit for ASEAN member states, that because it's an issue that is pertinent for all member states, it is relatively easier to agree on an issue on the women and to an extent disaster relief and recovery compared to an issue of a greater politics or security intervention. And so I will give you a little bit of a briefing of what is as Women, Peace and Security Forum at CSIS. It is a forum to discuss about issue of women and in relation of peace and security. Previously, we already have forums that discuss the relation of women and development, and we see that there is a need to actually further the issue of involvement of women in peace and security in regards, especially in ASEAN. And I think at CSIS, we agree that there is a need to increase the engagement of public. So through the discussion, to an extent, if we have dignitaries that we can invite from institution, international or national, we can have a bigger seminar or conferences. But today we are very privileged and honored to have three distinguished persons here that join us as the speakers that will enlighten us about the issues and concern of women, peace and security in the Southeast Asia region. The first is Lieutenant Colonel Ratih Pusparini. She's the first Indonesian female peacekeeper. She has been deployed in several areas, most notably in Syria, where we know the situation is a bit challenging. She will share with us her experience in terms of how women can also play a role in terms of being the security actor that can provide protection to the conflict and sub-conflict region. Next, we have Professor Mimi Fabe, Professor of Financial Terrorism and Transnational Organized Crime from the National Police College, the Philippines. She's very productive and prolific writer. She's today also will share with us her new published book on the disruptive innovation of the Duterte presidency. She gave me a free coffee previously when I was in the Philippines having women, peace and security discussion as well in Miriam College. And she said that this is a fruit of intellectual love and a way of how she showed her love for her country. And we kind of see that sometimes women are not being really welcome in terms of their dedication to one country, because as we know, there's many military conscription or the joy of working for government are mostly open for men, but not women, as we can see how men are usually excel in the police and the military, but women, there's still a sticky floor and glass ceiling that they need to break in terms of how they can actually contribute and their contribution be seen. Last but not least, we have Ibu Sri Danti Anwar, the Indonesia Women Movement, women activists in Indonesia would not be foreign to her name, because she is already very famous in Indonesia. She is currently the representative for the ACWC in Indonesia, for Indonesia. ACWC is ASEAN Commission on the Promotion and Protection of the Right for Women and Children, and she is working on the women on women's rights. Previously, she's also a senior pejabat officer at the Ministry of Gender Equality at the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protection of Indonesia. She will share with us how the Women Peace and Security agenda has been adopted, firstly in Indonesia, before it then further adopted in the ASEAN region. Now, without further ado, I will give the first opportunity to our peacekeeper. Let's call Ratih Pusparini. I heard that she already have the expertise of speaking at the UN, addressing the UN meeting, because Indonesia at the Security Council right now. She's the same stage with our first female foreign affairs minister, Ibu Retno Marsudi, and previously in Bahrain as well, delivering the importance of including women as a female peacekeeper. I would call for Bu Ratih, let's call Ratih Pusparini to deliver her talk.
Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Welcome to CSIS. Kayak tuan rumah ya. Kalau sama saya nggak usah tegang-tegang, ini tentara yang lain kok. Katanya orang-orang gitu sih. Okay. Today I just want to share my experiences and a bit of my knowledge based on that experiences. I was the first female military from Indonesia to be deployed to UN mission. It was in 2008. I went to Congo with a colleague from Army. So the first is a kind like pilot project, is 2 of us at that time. And up to now we have already about 370 something women military in the mission from 2008 up to 2019. Yes, Mbak. This is a bit about me, my experiences, and also my learning about international work environment in women peace and security. Yes, this is my first ever experience there in Congo. I arrived in Congo in Kinshasa, the capital city of Republic Democratic of Congo, in 17 January 2008. So I spent 2 months as a military observer. That's the 3 top picture is showing my activity. So military observers is some kind like the ears and the eyes of the mission. So we come the first to see something happen on the ground, and then we make a report to HQ. And the two picture done when I was as one of G3 Ops branch officer. Actually, I'm an Air Force officer. I'm not Army. But they gave me chance to learn more about land ops. Basically, for military, we know, but not that deep knowledge about each service. Sebentar, Pak, masih belum. The one with red polo shirt, when I was in an area in Beni on the eastern part of Congo, the land is about most probably about 10,000 square meters, and that's for about 7,000 ex-combatant who will go for their training to be a national military personnel for our Democratic Republic of Congo, Republic Democratic of Congo, FARDC. Sorry, that's French. I cannot pronounce that properly. We can say tentaranya Congo. So this big place, a huge land with tent. The headmaster is the Indian guy. They only have one water, source of water. So as a G3 Ops officer, I went there to check by myself and then to report again to the HQ. So can you imagine 7,000 people with only one water source? Is quite, yeah, but that's happened there. The one there, that's all ops branch. So only me among 32 men. That's my first. Even in Indonesia also, less women in military, but that surprising me for 32 people, and I was the only one. Yes, ma'am. And this one is the mission that have changed something in me, especially my mindset. Now I can say that I have nothing to fear of. Ya sudah, it's something happened to you, that's destiny, that's your fate, that's it. Yeah, so you can imagine the first time I arrived there on 24th April 2012, and I look at all the ruin and I said, wow, how can they do this for their own brothers and sisters or fathers or mothers or relatives? This is Homs, the first hotspot before Aleppo. Homs was the first one. It was a beautiful old city, but nothing there when I was there. The funny things, I can say this funny, because if a region is under the government, the situation is a normal thing. I can have shisha at that time. I had a good dinner with my friends. We had shisha, but the region next to this place, it's some kind like this. It's only birds, rat or mouse that can live there, because all the people from that area, they said that I don't want to sacrifice myself for something that I don't even know. This place also still teach me up to now, how a grand scenario in this whole world, because you are all an expert in international relation, how this scenario, big scenario, ruining some or a country like this, or we call it proxy war. Yes, Mbak. And this is in Lebanon. Nice place, beautiful people, beautiful food. Enak lah berlibur di rumah nenek. All infrastructure up to the mountainous area, so we can drive our car there up to mountainous area. Then I learned that UNIFIL there is to guard the blue line, the imaginary line between Lebanon and Israel. Jadi some kind like Pak RT yang punya dua anggota rumah ini compoundnya tetanggaan yang ribut gitu loh. Satu orang kaya, satu orang miskin dah gitu aja. So I spent almost 13 months here in UNIFIL as that's the third time in ops branch. So again, I learned more about land ops and also the operational thing from UN. Yes, Pak. Asian women. Yeah, the first one on the top left is Cambodian contingent. They are expert in landmine. So this is contingent in Lebanon, in UNIFIL, our neighbor there. Our contingent and Cambodian contingent are neighbor, and they special on landmine because a lot still there in Lebanon. I think that's remnant of 2006 war, and the last war. The one in the middle is Filipino. They had, I don't know, do they still send to Golan Heights
yes.
still? Yeah, because last time they kidnapped some peacekeeper.
Yeah.
I think 4 or 6 Filipino. And I heard also from professor now they have sniper, women sniper. Can you imagine that? Nice. I'm proud of. Yeah, benar Bu, bangga banget.
In Indonesia, we also
No, not yet. Not yet. Kita aman kok. And then Malaysia. Malaysia also in UNIFIL. It's almost the same like us. The tradition, the way we approach local people is almost the same. And that Thai lady, the one in Sudan, she's some kind like the peacekeeper, women peacekeeper from Thailand. So when we talk women peacekeeper from Thailand, she will be there. And Indonesian ladies in Lebanon. Now we have all female team. So about 25 female under command of an officer. The rest are NCOs. They work like if you ever seen American movie about Afghanistan war or Iraq war, when a group of people come close to the local to talk to them and then learn about the situation there, we call it CMIC team, Civil Military Coordination Team. So this is all female. We call FET, Female Engagement Team. This is second time this year we have that. The first one is just back from Congo. The Rapid Deployment Battalion is special force. Banyakan Kopassus, Marinir, Paskas yang diberangkatkan untuk memberantas pemberontak itu. Yes, Mbak. And this is what I have got from my 3 missions so far. Jadi women is more visible. I can say that when women peacekeeper there, more local women come close and share their stories. If we compare with all male team, the one with even only one woman in the team, we got more information. And then easier access because maybe they feel comfortable. Oh yeah, a women there. So come please. And then they share and even they show us, this is my house. If it is men, no way. They don't want to get close even. They just like hiding behind. And my friend will always say, okay, why don't they send more female? Why don't they send more female? Is everywhere almost the same problem. It's not easy to send more female to the mission. We also like the role model for local girls, local women, like the one I was with school children. One of them came close to me and grabbed my and she told me, Mama, in her language, sorry, I forgot Swahili or Lingala. Mama, I want to be like you someday. So no more war in my country. I was just like, oh. And my friend said, Ratih, don't cry. I know. Don't cry. Because she just came and then grabbed my hand. Mama, I want to be like you. Jadi, it's not only for me. I was being there, not only for me. This is also for Indonesia, the UN, and we are the ambassador for UN and for Indonesia, and as a role model for the local ladies and girls, especially them. Yes, Mbak. And this is the recommendation. Wish someday one of you, or maybe 3, 4, 5 of you, will be on the top ranking position, the high ranking position. Please, if you have that link now, like Professor is here, next time we will have a link, a global link, some kind like apa Mbak bilangnya, advisory network. That's the most important thing. But this not only me. In my level, I cannot do anything. I'm just the puppet. Do it, do this, do that. That's it. But if it is high-ranking officer, it's not only in the military but also in the government, they can do something. They can have a policy to send more women peacekeepers. Not only the one in uniform, but also the civilian as well. You can try to see if it is, the requirement is okay, then you can put there as a professional level staff, or you can start with a UN volunteer. They still pay you, even it is volunteer, but still. And a lot Filipinos as UNV in Congo. And they are very, I can say, have a very good community. They teach each other. If you will be next to this level, do this, do that. Indonesian numbers at that time is very less. It's only 3 or 4 people. But I learned from the Filipino, they have a very strong bond among them. So they can invite their friends or relatives or families back in Philippines to start join with UN. And most of them start with UNV, and then they will see which vacant position and they apply for that. Wish someday we will have that big numbers like the Filipino. And we are close, yeah. Asian people, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia in the mission. We share a lot similarities, so it's easier for us also for adaptation in the new area, or even in a conflict area like in Congo. And give female or women more chance to get involved not only in feminine duties, not only in logistic, administration, or medical, or medics. Try to give us chance as a negotiator. If it is less number of female negotiator, but if they give chance, pretty sure that we will have more women negotiator in the mission. I think that's it, Mbak ya. Selesai ya. Ya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Dr. Ratih Pusparini. Before we go to the next speaker, actually this is supposed to be interactive and Q&A panel discussion, but you already answered all my difficult questions. But there's, I was gonna ask, like, how can someone become like you? I mean, this children that want to be like you, to be the peace agent, and you already said the recommendation, but what I really want to know also, what's the challenge, if we can go back to the earlier slides of you being the only woman
what's the challenge for women to be there? And I'm sorry for being so upfront. How can someone be as special as you to be deployed, right? How can we all be lucky?
Okay, it was special because that was pilot project, so they just choose me. At that time, the Commander-in-Chief was Pak Joko Suyanto from Air Force, and he asked, "Do we have any candidates?" "Yes, Bapak, Major." I was a Major. Major Ratih in Foreign Liaison Office. "Ah, jagoan kita. Oke dah, biarin deh," katanya. Karena saya terkenal berani, dalam artian I can be assigned for any job. I never complain. So I said, "Okay, you know me not because I'm popular because of something, but you know me that I can do my job." That's the key. And Commander-in-Chief at that time said, "Who is the candidate?" "Major Ratih, Bapak." "Okay, but don't let her go alone. So ask her to find friends." So I choose my army colleague. She's retired now. And for the civilian, that's what I said. If you want to start with UNV, UN volunteer. Open unjobs.org, then you can see all the vacancies, because I do also that thing. That's you can learn what is the requirement actually to join the P. And UN also has offices here in Jakarta. So if you're afraid that your family, especially mother, will not give you permission to go to the conflict area, try to apply in Indonesia. We have a lot UN agencies here. UNHCR behind my office there in Kebon Siri, or here in Tamrin, I think. A lot also. So start to try. We never know if we never try. Is it? Bisa apa enggak kan nggak tahu kalau nggak nyoba mah. Itu dulu. And be adaptive. That's the key. Be adaptive. Don't expect, if you are there in the mission, don't expect that your life will be as comfortable as here in Jakarta. Because my friend, 17 officer from Indonesia in 2008, I was the only one, the fit one, because 16 of us, they got malaria. And I'm the only one, no malaria, alhamdulillah. Maybe because I try to enjoy the life there. Be adaptive, that's it. Or be flexible. Wherever you are, okay, this is the situation like this, so I don't have to think about, aduh, kalau makan somai apa makan bakso enak kali ya. Ya pulang aja kalau kayak gitu, kan gitu. So be adaptive, be flexible, then you will stay there and survive. That's what I can say, Ma.
Last question before we turn to Prof. Mimi. I hope you're patient. So I was invited by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs a couple of weeks ago. We have this discussion on how to increase the civilian contribution in the peacekeeping operation. And one of the session was on women, and there were challenges in terms of increasing the number of women to be civilian member of the peacekeeping mission. And would you have any suggestion? Because you were mentioning about special trainings, and how can we go about it? What do you think is the main challenge? And then perhaps we can create a specific kind of training. Perhaps we can. I can relay this back to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, because it would be good that Indonesia would have the same capacity or reputation as the Philippines.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Kelewat ya tadi ya. The biggest challenge itu come from our teammates. When I was in Syria, they don't allow me to go outside the hotel. Outside the team set. The team set is live in a hotel. They said, "Sister, we love you. We're taking care of you. Don't go there. It's too dangerous." 2 days I was assigned as an admin officer. So make a report, send to HQ. That's what I did. Then on the last day, hari kedua itu, in the evening, I told the team leader, hey, come on. Why you put me as admin officer for 2 days in a row? Yeah, because we love you. You're the only lady here. Please stay here, be safe. I said, no. I come here the same. We have same mandate, we have same job. Why you treat me like this? And then this, okay, if that's what you want, sister, we will assign you tomorrow. Okay, I was the patrol leader, so we move around, we get all information from the ladies, we came close, even a grandma gave me their bread and eat this, thank you, because of you I can sleep now. Can you imagine? What was the situation before we came there? It was 1 year after the first conflict, or the first crisis, 2011, and we were there in 2012. That's the third day. And again, on the fourth day, he assigned me again to patrol. Okay, I did it. And then at the end of the day, I asked him and all the team members, why you treated me like this? Everyone has just 1 day go and then 1 day off. Why for me 2 days in a row? What do you want? And he said, that's what you want. No, I want equal treatment, not like this. Okay. And then one lady from Italy, she is now the head of mission in Congo. She sat there, I was here, and she just like, because only 2 of us at that time there. And I said, okay, treat me equal, that's what I want. Okay, the next day, they assigned the Yemeni officer, and they got shot. So it's some kind like abuse. And 2 people from the Red Cross got shot on the leg and on the arm. And he, as the Yemeni officer, as the patrol leader, came to the hotel and straight to my room. Yes, please, Ratih. Why? Sister, yes, what happened? Did you know about this plan? What plan? They shot us. Hey, are you crazy? How can I know the plan? That's why you don't want to be assigned as a patrol leader. So the team leader gave it to me. It should be you. No, I said. Why you? And I just like, can I just hit you or kick you? I don't like this. Jadi dia mengatakan, oh lu udah tahu ya, bakalan ditembak kita ya, jadi lu nggak mau ya, kan crazy. Saya bilang, no, come on. Treat me equal, that's it. I don't ask more than this. That's the challenges. But for Indonesian, maybe orang kita tuh tidak seperti orang Filipin. Filipin likes to go overseas. And they brave enough. Even only a lady smaller than me, she survived there. But for Indonesian, I see like the family is the problem mostly. Lapa tondo ato-ato, ya kan? Nyetor nyawa ta. Kaya nggak ono gawean ae ning Jakarta. Nah, kan ngono. Jadi our tradition. This is my opinion. This is my opinion because that's what happened. Even for the military, the selection is fair. Everyone can apply for this, but less female. Less women military want to apply. I said, why? My mom doesn't allow me to go because it's too dangerous. Come on, look at me, I'm still alive. I said, no, ma'am, my mom. And then also the husband. And sometimes the boss at the office. What will you do there? That's for men, that's not for you. So that's why I asked even Kemlu to make more socialization agenda. Go to universities, go to schools, even high schools, just to encourage girls to have at least they have broaden horizon. Oh iya, we can do this. It's not only men's job, it's also for the ladies. Jadi inclusiveness-nya ada di situ. That's I think more.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us your experience, Ratih Pusparini. Next speaker, we are blessed by the presence of Professor Mimi Fabe. Her real name, can I say real name? Long name is Amparo Pamela Hulinga Fabe. Huliganga Fabe, I'm sorry. She is a professor in financial terrorism and transnational organized crime at the National Police College, the Philippines. She is a prolific writer, and many of his work has been published. Her writing, The Challenge and Opportunities in Combating Terrorism, Terrorist Financing, has been published by the Routledge Companion to the Global Cybersecurity Strategy, and her writings on ISIS terrorism financing featured in the Marawi siege and its aftermath has been published by Cambridge Scholars, publishing in the UK. And this is her latest book. And today, Professor Mimi will share with us about her take of the experiences of, we know in the Philippines they experience a really sad share of the Marawi situation. And today she will share with us about the dreams, hope, and the future, trauma counseling, and human capacity building among the Marawi Muslim women and children after the Marawi city siege. And perhaps you can enlighten us. I'm sorry, but maybe you were asking how long I can give you time of speaking. Is 15 to 20 okay, or should I give you 50? But okay, thank you so much. Please, Professor.
Pleasant good morning to all. It's an honor for me to come and visit here at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Jakarta. And I would like to thank Dr. Fitriani for the kind invitation to share my thoughts on the role of women in armed conflict, focusing on the situation of women and children during the Marawi siege. To start, I'd like to give a brief profile about myself. I'm a security analyst. I'm one of the 2 female security analysts of the Philippines. And I came to this field in 2010 during the US pivot to Asia. I was formerly a banker with Citibank, Singapore, and I shifted to the field of terrorism studies. So currently, I am a lecturer at the National Police College. I also lecture to the Philippine Marine Corps and the Scout Ranger Battalion. These are the units that are the fighting machines of our army. And also the Philippine Coast Guard terrorism course. So I handle all of this training for our security forces who are really faced with current skirmishes or battles on the ground. Now, as part of my research, I also go on the ground. During the Marawi siege, I was there from the beginning. I was there May 1, and then the siege erupted on May 23. And then I was there until the end of the Marawi siege. For you to know, the Marawi siege resulted in many casualties for our government security forces. We had a total of 1,000 plus security casualties, both for police and military. So I think I survived the military siege, being in the main battle area, because I was going to give this lecture. So I'm very happy. So briefly, the Marawi city siege is started in May 23, and with the clash of the ISIS finance rebel group, Maute Brothers, with the Philippine government security forces. The group was using the black flag, supposedly representing the Islamic State. And during the siege, the rebels captured Catholic church workers of Marawi City from St. Mary's Cathedral. That was the start of the siege. And on May 24, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte suspended the privilege of habeas corpus, allowing for warrantless arrests for those connected to the crisis. Immediately, about 386,900 residents of the Marawi siege went to evacuate to the nearby areas. The battle was so bad that even during that time, because our allies responded to the call of the Philippines to help, so there were a lot of Singaporeans, Bruneians, Americans who helped us in the battle. They said that this was really a very terrible battle because every day there were casualties. Okay, so I was, as a security analyst, I'm required to go on the ground when there is a military battle. And of course, I move around with the troops. So sometimes with the Philippine Marines, sometimes with the Scout Ranger Battalion, and the Philippine Army female snipers. So for me as a security analyst, I was really honored to be with them because these are the security forces are not afraid to die. I mean, they really try, every day they're not afraid to meet death because for them, this is service to the country. And for me, I'm grateful for that because I see it in action. Every day when we go out, they don't even worry about if they're going to leave at the end of the day. What they are focused on is the mission. The mission is to defeat the ISIS terrorists who have a combined, who have fighters from 26 countries, 26 different nationalities fought with the ISIS rebels for the Marawi siege. And then it was on October 17, 2017, that Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte declared the liberation of Marawi during his 7th visit to the city. So I'd like to start my presentation with the story of Sarah, a story of love and hope in a time of war, which is the Marawi city siege. So the story of Sarah reflects how young women are able to overcome the difficulties inherent in an armed conflict and to draw love, hope, and strength from their own personal circumstances, made even more difficult by the war. So Sarah is a young Muslim mother who gave birth to a healthy baby boy on June 15, 2017, the start of the military battle between ISIS rebels and Philippine security forces. So at the time, Sarah and her husband were forced to hide within the city and evade the areas of military encounter for the next 6 months. Despite the horror of the war, the complete destruction of their home, the displacement of being homeless, and the hunger that went with it, Sarah was very happy with the birth of her child. She looked at her baby and her baby's future as the embodiment of love and hope. She paid no attention to her depression and the shock from the war, but she focused on what she could do for her child. What she did was she wants to resume her studies so she can be a public school teacher like her own mother and give a bright and better future for her child. I met her in the middle of the war. I met her at around July, and she told me her story. So this simple story shows how women are able to pierce through the sadness of the armed conflict and adapt to its complexities and bring out a measure of love and hope. In this case, the love of a young mother for her newborn baby boy was able to dispel the sadness of the war and allow her to be resilient. So for me, when the war broke out, okay, I was covering it as a security analyst, and right after, when Marawi was liberated, I decided to ask the help of my friends so that we can provide psychosocial support to the 7,000 women who were affected emotionally, socially, mentally, and spiritually by the war. So briefly, psychosocial support builds internal and external resources for women and children and their respective families to cope with adversity. Psychosocial support also helps build resilience among the children. So initially, we provided crisis debriefing for 100 women. So we just went by 100, like by batches, because there were 7,000. There were other NGOs who also offered psychosocial services, but in my case, we went to the badly hit parts. In the Marawi siege, there were several villages that were affected. So since I was there in the war, I knew which part was badly hit, where the most number of civilian casualties were. So we started there. That's how we started the psychosocial support. Now, since the ones who started it, I'm Catholic, and also my friend is Christian, we generated the help of our friends who are Muslims to help us provide the psychosocial support. So we got our friends who are therapists, psychologists, to use art in order to process them. Okay. So we also tapped the cultural expertise of the local nurses, the mental health specialists, to assist in the delivery of psychosocial services to the women and children. So the Muslim female youth were engaged as translators for the theme. Well, incidentally, since I'm also a member of the Royal House of Lanao, I was able to tap into my family's kinship networks so that we can expand. So from Lanao, Marawi City is part of Lanao del Sur, so we also did work in Lanao del Norte as well as in Cagayan de Oro City, which are the nearby areas of the siege. So my assessment is that the Maranao women were affected on two fronts. First, they were affected because of the war, and secondly, they were affected because of the economic difficulties that were inherent in that war. Because of course, when war breaks out, the economic possibilities are gone because the business establishments are destroyed, people flee the place, and practically in a war economy, you have, like, the people are reduced to the subsistence level, or they just get food from the government, from the Department of Social Welfare and Development, and also from the aid that is being given from outside. So the idea, if you look at the experience of the internally displaced persons in Marawi, the aim was to empower them so that they can resume community and social life, they can reestablish their educational and livelihood needs, and also that they can have access again to basic health care for women, children, and vulnerable individuals. The second story that I will tell you about the Marawi siege concerns children in armed conflict. I would like to tell you the story of Akhtar, a 12-year-old Muslim boy who was separated from his family during the war. This story shows the displacement of young children from their respective homes, which was an effect of the armed conflict, which led to a much painful experience, in this case, sexual abuse from a close relative, his own uncle. I met Akhtar in one of the evacuation centers for internally displaced residents. So I was helping process his personal trauma through the use of art. During one of our conversations, I asked him what he wants to be when he grows up. Akhtar responded immediately. Akhtar then said, "When I grow up, I want to be a rich businessman so that I can kill my uncle." I was really surprised by his answer, so I asked him gently to explain to me his answer. He then recounted to me his experience during the armed conflict. He said that on May 23, the outbreak of the war, he was playing with his cousins in the house of his uncle. When the fighting started, his uncle called his father, that Akhtar was with him and that he will bring him in Zamboanga with his family so that Akhtar will be safe and he will continue his schooling. Akhtar's father readily agreed to this plan since his father had to attend to Akhtar's 9 other siblings who were in Marawi City. Like the Marawi City residents, they never expected the siege. The siege just broke out and all the family members were scattered all over the city. And it was difficult. Immediately, the government shut down the mobile services. So contacting your relatives and friends became next to impossible. So what happened to Akhtar was that his uncle brought him to Zamboanga City, where his uncle started to sexually abuse him. So he became a slave in the home of his relatives. Then he was asked to sell candies and food in the public market every day so that he can eat. If he cannot sell anything, then he will not eat that day. In the public market, he met some Christian women who were owners of food stalls. So Akhtar decided to approached them and he sought their help and requested them to buy all his goods so that he can go home and eat. When the war finished after a period of 6 months, one of the Christian women asked Akhtar if he wanted to go home to his family in Marawi City. Akhtar said yes, so the Christian woman coordinated with the Department of Social Welfare in Marawi and sought their help to find Akhtar's family. Finally, the Christian woman was able to talk to Akhtar's father, and she said she will give Akhtar money for the bus ride home. After 3 days, in October, Akhtar was reunited with his immediate family. So Akhtar's story also shows that armed conflict separates and scatters family members and results in pain and misery for young people. On the bright side, this story also reflects how women help manage to bring families back together again after a sustained period of armed conflict. The third story that I would like to share concerns the role of women in armed conflict. The field of counter-terrorism research sees women as allies and at the same time enemies. Sometimes we think that only men are the terrorists. We forget that women can be very good terrorists too. An example of effective terrorists are the female operatives of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army who were present on the ground during the Marawi siege. So during the Marawi siege, some female members of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army who work at the Department of Social Welfare and Development connived with local officials who are their sympathizers to purposely withhold food rations and financial support for some residents of Barangay Amay Pakpak in Marawi. So this situation resulted in further anger and frustration among the internally displaced persons of the conflict. These female communist terrorists want the local residents to get mad at the national government due to their inability to access food and financial assistance. So this kind of agitation among the Marawi City residents is the contribution of these female communist terrorists who want to foster the recruitment of young Muslims into the ISIS movement who were fighting against the government. Thus, policymakers have to look into the tactical and functional integration and cooperation among the ISIS terrorists and the communist rebels in an actual war zone. Finally, these female communist terrorists instigate conflict and chaos in Muslim areas to prevent the establishment of lasting peace in those settings. Thus, these female communist terrorists must be dealt with a strong hand. So I would like to cite my 4 conclusions from this brief presentation. The first is that women derive love, strength, and hope from situations of armed conflict. It is women like Sarah who inject hope in their personal situations, and they always strive to make it better. The second point is that women can bring families back together again in the midst of an armed conflict. The story of Akhtar, the painful story of sexual abuse from his uncle, shows the role of good women who exerted efforts to reunite him immediately with his family. The third conclusion is that the female terrorists of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army have coordinated agitation of local Marawi City residents to push young Muslims who are angry and frustrated and making them highly vulnerable to the recruitment of the ISIS rebels. The fourth point is that women can help alleviate pain and suffering after an armed conflict by providing psychosocial support to the affected residents. Given the fact that the Maranao Muslim women perceive their daily social conditions as having a greater impact on their psychosocial well-being than the Marawi siege-related traumatic experiences, The psychosocial team proposed that future psychosocial interventions in this socio-cultural context heavily center on, first, enhancing the women's capacity to alter the stresses of their current environment and coping effectively with those stressors that cannot be readily modified. Second, offering economic opportunities that will provide additional income for their families. Third, decreasing symptoms and the consequent syndromes of distress that are deemed to be culturally meaningful. So my work in providing psychosocial services to the Marnao Muslim women and children is just a personal initiative. So I was not supported by the government nor the private sector in this. What I did was I just banded together my friends. We went to Marawi. That's why they said, initially I asked the Doctors Without Borders. And the Doctors Without Borders in Hong Kong, they declined my invitation for them to come to Marawi. So I told them, then you have to change your name. You should be Doctors With Borders. You know? That's my answer. Because you don't want, we said, we don't want to die. You're right. I mean, you are right. Because Marawi at that time, even after in October, it was still very difficult. Yeah, you can still die, you know, in that area. But anyway, me and my friends, since we were a bunch of crazy women, we went there, we provided psychosocial support, we gave medicines and supplements to 1,000 pregnant women, Muslim women, to support them, because during the war, they didn't have access to services. I brought crazy doctors. I say crazy because, you know, we were like Christians entering a Muslim zone and helping our fellow man, our countrymen. I said, they are women also, we have to help them, of course. And at the same time, we were putting our lives in danger because the military even had to tell me, you have to sign a waiver so that if any of your group dies, it's your fault. So I signed the waiver. So I mean, we will pray that God will spare us, but of course we survived. No? That's why I'm telling the story. Because we went through all the difficult areas of Lanao del Sur afterwards. And with this, it really amazes me that despite the conflict, all the women that I've talked to, they talk about hope, they talk about strength, they talk about optimism. So since we were women, we cannot cater also to the men who were also suffering from the shock of the war. But I couldn't imagine like what the men would have said in the same context. But the women, they were hopeful, they were positive. They said that they look forward to rebuild their house. So it's all like forward-looking. You look forward. This is the problem. We look forward to a better future. And it shows for me as a security analyst, it strengthened me, you know, that the Filipino women have the best coping skills. They don't have the resources, but they have the best coping skills. And with this, I end my presentation.
Thank you. Professor Mimi, thank you for sharing with us your field research notes and the real experience from the ground and after the Marawi siege and your intervention. I think it gives us hope how individual effort with a little help of friends can provide an intervention to the area of conflict and post-conflict areas, and to have individual experience testimony to enrich the situation. I want to know, because I was quite surprised of your sharing, because it's really rich and really personal. I mean, the quotes are really personal. Like, how do you see, like, maybe my question was kind of shocked. Isn't the government help you? Like how do, maybe they're too overwhelmed, and like how is their intervention, and how does I don't know, because you were saying that you're doing it alone. Like maybe you can have more help. And then I know the issue in in Marawi is quite large, because we have the Mindanao peace process agreed and signed in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and we kind of think that the Mindanao Southern Philippine area has been calm, and then suddenly in 2017 we have the Marawi siege, and I know it's perhaps too much to handle by the government, and I know it's a very if all the Philippine citizens are like you, probably it's all has been resolved and all been empowered. But like, can you share a little bit more of like how is the government dealing with this, and how perhaps in the future you can like also ask the Philippine government to help you in doing this initiative?
Thank you so much. I think the Marawi siege at the time, it presented very serious security difficulties. Even the Philippine Psychiatrists Association did not want to go to Marawi City. It was that bad because they were afraid that their members would die while giving psychosocial treatment. So knowing that, I said, we have to go and give them now, because if you delay the psychosocial treatment, it will definitely have an impact on the individuals suffering from the war shock. I would say that the Philippine government at the time was overwhelmed. Even the Department of Health, they were vainly trying to get psychologists to go there, but nobody wants to go. At least for the Department of Health, they offered psychosocial intervention in Cagayan de Oro City, which is the city nearest to Marawi City. So they would just ask some of the IDPs, internally displaced persons, to go to Cagayan de Oro City for the counseling. But for me, it's that would be a bit difficult, because these are the internally displaced persons who do not have money even for a bus ride going to that place. That's why for me, I decided we go where the people are. Because if you expect them to go to Cagayan de Oro City, that's a 2-hour bus ride if they have the bus. And also, there are few vehicles traveling that highway, because that still is considered as a conflict area. So in my case, what I did, I coordinated with the military, I coordinated with the police or my students, and also for the psychosocial team, I also organized a private security group to, of course, protect us, because that's still a conflict zone. And as we carried out our work, I made close coordination on the security aspect with the police and the military. They were helpful, but I think they were overwhelmed because of the number of, they were also counting their casualties. See, they were also suffering. Like at the time, when I look at the military and the police, they were also grieving because we lost 1,000 security forces at the time. So those were their friends, their brothers, their classmates in the Philippine Military Academy or Philippine National Police Academy who died during the conflict. So at that time, I think it was very difficult. They were grieving. Everybody was grieving because you must have lost a relative, a cousin during the war. The residents were grieving. So for me, as a security analyst, I decided to just to give what I got, and then also to give recommendations to the Department of Social Work and Welfare, so that after we have given that intervention for the 7,000 women, they can take over, because that's really their work, right? So I'm just here to help out at first with the best I can, getting all my brave friends. That's why it's good, because it was during this time that I knew among my female friends who were brave and who were not. Because they all flew, like we all flew from Manila, flying to Mindanao, and then giving the psychosocial work. But for me, I was in the siege at the start, and then after the siege, I moved to Lanao del Sur to also give medicines, supplements to all the pregnant women. Because at the time, I knew there were a lot of pregnant women in Lanao del Sur and also in Lanao del Norte. So the help is to give them, to sustain them, to encourage them. No? So this was the time that the police and military also cordoned the area to protect us. And for me, I have this sense of intuition that even the female relatives of the ISIS terrorists, both Indonesians and Malaysians, also went to my medical dental work. So we gave medicines, we had doctors, we even had dentists. So everybody was happy. And then I just asked both both the women, and because I knew some were Indonesian, some were Malaysian, I said, just protect us on the way home. Because if something happens to us, I cannot bring any more people here, any more good people. So I think the military protected us, the police, and also the terrorists in a way that we go out safely, because that zone is a battle zone. You have to go through several battle zones to reach an area where I thought was the best area where they could seek help. Okay, so it was actually also a brave decision on my part, but I said, since in the Philippines there are Catholics, Christians, and Muslims, this is a way also to show them that we, the Christians, the Catholics, are united in their suffering. That we cannot just read it from a newspaper or read it from an online newspaper, but we have to be there, we have to be active. I call it the gift of presence. Because you can say, I am concerned for you, my hearts go out with you, my prayers are with you, but it's different when you go there. And they see that since I don't have a hijab, then I must be Catholic or Christian, and I enter the Muslim territory. That's already something. And then to be giving medicines, that's something. So for me, it's the gift of presence, the gift of concern. Not just mere words, not just mere feelings or prayers, but I believe in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Two more questions, if you allow me. First question is, it's just a personal question because the wife of Maute is Indonesian, right? How's the situation there? How do they feel? Because I was in a meeting with somebody from the Philippines government, and they kind of blamed the Indonesian for not managed to, the spillover effect of the radicalized people. And you were mentioning about the bad women, and I don't know, because it's very gray. My work in CSIS, we interview a wife of the former terrorist, and some of them don't actually know that their husband terrorist at that time was with Jamaah Islamiyah, but now maybe a different era with ISIS, and I want to know how do you see that, and the relation, and this connects with my second question about the relationship of the neighborhood feeling of ASEAN, and how we can actually bring the issue of women, the good women, the bad women, perhaps in your words. I don't really like the word crazy, so so how do you see this as an issue that we can help address together in ASEAN, perhaps with a framework or agenda, women, peace and security, or maybe not? And I just want to know what your take on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very difficult question for a very beautiful morning. Okay, first and foremost, I think that in the case of the ISIS terrorists, the women, based on my studies, the women handle the money. Therefore, they are complicit. They are fully aware. They're fully supportive of the terrorist attacks of their husbands. So that's the difference between them and Jamaah Islamiyah and Al-Qaeda. Because the women are the one, in my studies, the women are the ones receiving the money from ISIS Syria and from the Middle East. Supporters of ISIS in the Middle East, the money going to the Philippines are received only by women. So they are really participants. They are against, not like they're working against the government. Well, in the case of the wife of the Omar Maute, who's Indonesian, she's actually still in custody. I don't think there's any, if you ask me personally, I think the close relations between Indonesia and Philippines still holds. The feelings that you cited were maybe isolated from our government sources, but for me, since I'm on the ground, generally, there are close relations between Indonesia and the Philippines. We know that, of course, there are Indonesian ISIS terrorists in the area of Mindanao, but I think that should not have an impact on the kind of high-level diplomatic relations that we currently have. So as a way forward is that I think we need to educate the women, the Filipino women as well as the Indonesian women, on the strong role of a woman in supporting a husband's activities. Now, these activities ideally should be peaceful and not terrorist related. Okay, so I think that the focus on the education, the proper education of women, the proper values, the authentic human values that they have to imbibe. And also, I would like to encourage the women in this room to pursue security studies. So I'm sure many of you are in international relations, so that's closer than economics to security. So when I made the jump from economics to the field of security studies, I focused on the financing of terrorism. So I currently do research around the region, and my expertise is more on ISIS, and probably in the future a little on the Jama'at Ansharut Daulah, because they're also funding the female terrorists in the Philippines. So I think we need more female security analysts on the ground, because we have a different perspective. When you go on the ground, for example, for me, I go to Basilan, I go to Sulu, I go to Tawi-Tawi. These are dangerous hotspots. The female take is quite different, and the way they treat you is also different. So I have gone to, I met the wives of the Abu Sayyaf terrorists. So it's a different reception. I'm alive, because if a man would go there, the military or police, they would be dead. The moment you step down in the Abu Sayyaf area, you would be dead. But if you're a female security analyst, it's different. They treat you better, because we want to understand the conflict better, because we want peace. That's the idea. And the women, we want peace. Why? Because the men, they make war. And then what happens? In a war, our brothers, our fathers, our cousins, male cousins are killed. So the women, we pick up the pieces of the war. If they're wounded, we care for them. If they are war shock, PTSD, we care for them. The women care. If they die, we bury them. So it's the women who bears the burden of the men, they like to make war because it's exciting. You use explosives, you use guns like that. But the women, we don't like it. That's why if I want to promote peace, I would like to talk to the female cousins of the Abu Sayyaf, their wives, to talk some sense to their husband that we need peace. The war has to stop. We have lost, we have dug so many graves. I'm from Mindanao. In Mindanao, there are so many cemeteries. We should stop putting people in cemeteries. We have to really keep them alive. We have to foster unity and dialogue also in order to foster peace. And I think the best job for that would be the women. And I would like to encourage you to be security analysts. It's really a good job, great job, rain or shine. So when you're on the field, when it's raining, you're really drenched. So for me, from being a banker, working for Citibank, JP Morgan, I was never drenched when I was a banker. But when I became a security analyst, I'm super drenched. That you're wet down, and then you have to wait till the next barangay that you go to before you can change. But it's a good experience for me, because even as a child, I was so well protected that my mom would not allow me to get wet in the rain. So by being a security analyst, I was able to experience what I should have experienced as a child. When it's raining, you go out, you be under the rain, enjoy the water, like that. So I encourage the younger audience to, because you can still shift. I have been working as a banker for 15 years, Citi banker, JP Morgan banker. Then I shifted to terrorism. So that's why my friends now, they say, you're nuts. You use from a business suit to just simple get up, because it's grab and go. You have a knapsack, okay, Mimi, go to Basilan, great. Meeting the Abu Sayyaf, great, amazing. So from meeting former bankers or important people, now I'm meeting the terrorists on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Mimi. It's really enriching. Now we come to the last honorable speaker for today. We're really lucky. Finally, we have Ibu Sri Danti Anwar that blessed us with her presence after so long trying to bring her here. She is very notable in Indonesia. She is working with the Ministry for Women Empowerment and Child Protection, and already reaching quite decision making position. Let's call Ratih, maybe Ibu Danti would be somebody that will fight for the presence of more women. She managed to fight the Act number 2, 2011 on political party that have 30% of women quota in Indonesia. He also have fought for the Ministry of Finance regulation for having gender responsive budgeting. She is also she was also the one that actually moving the women peace and security agenda, so it becomes part of the government agenda. That's why Indonesia have National Action Plan in 2014. After I heard like 5 years or 7 years very difficult negotiation, because the Indonesian government does not want to be seen as a nation that have conflict. That's why it's very tricky for any country to adopt women peace and security agenda, because they were afraid to be perceived as a country in conflict. Ibu Sri Danti Anwar is also appointed as the chair of ASEAN Committee on Women in 2011 and currently serving as the Indonesia representative to the ASEAN Commission on the Promotion and Protection of the Right of Women and Children, ACWC. And we would like to know now from her take, from Ibu Danti perspective, how is this really differing issues and take of the issue of women? One, we see women as the agent of change. Another one is women as the victims that needs to be protected and have a capacity building, psychosocial intervention, as well as that was said, there's a role of women that is in a tricky situation of communism and terrorism. So we want to know your take. Perhaps you can explain to us about the ACWC as a platform in ASEAN, and how the ACWC are playing the role in terms of furthering the issue of women, peace and security. Because we know in ASEAN, in 2017, ASEAN already issued a joint statement on promoting the Women, Peace and Security agenda, as well as in 2018, we have Women and Peace Registry. And this year in August, we have Women, Peace and Security Symposium in Cambodia. So maybe you can share with us your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Fitri, for the nice introduction. Good morning, everybody. Kok lemes ya? Kita ngomongnya itu aja ya, nggak usah tegang ya, apa namanya, mixed language aja. Because I see it's a bit funny talking to all the Indonesian in English. You only have one narasumber in non-English speaking. So I just try to make it to mixed language. I'd just like to correct a little bit. I was the chair of ACWC, not 2011, Bu Fitri, but 2017, 2019, Indonesia was the chair of the ACWC, is ASEAN Commission on the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Women and Children. It is one of the sectoral bodies under the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community pillar. So in ASEAN, there are 3 pillars. One is ACC, we call it ASEAN Social Cultural Community Pillars, under which a lot of sectoral bodies related with social welfare, one of which is ACWC. And the second pillar is ASEAN Social Community on Economic Pillar, under which all the sectoral bodies related with economic issues. And then the third pillar is on the ASEAN Political Social Security pillar, under which a lot of sectoral bodies related with security and policies. So Mbak Fitri mentioned that in ASEAN, the ASEAN just introduced the joint statement on women, peace and security in 2017. Yes, this is quite new actually in ASEAN. It's just 2 years. Why is this just a statement? It's not even a declaration, because as you know, in ASEAN, the condition and the situation and condition of all the ASEAN region is quite different in terms of the political, economic, and social cultural issues. Some countries more advanced in terms of women empowerment, gender equality, and social security. Another country is still struggling, where you can see, for instance, in Myanmar, in Laos, and all these least developed countries in ASEAN is quite challenging if we right away talk about declaration or something higher than the statement. That's why in 2017, the heads of states and government of the member state of the ASEAN together introduced what we call a joint statement on promoting women, peace, and security in ASEAN. This is in order to reaffirm that in ASEAN, with regard to the women empowerment and gender equality, actually the ASEAN has already issued a lot of policies and commitment. For instance, there is a declaration on the elimination of violence against women in ASEAN region. This is adopted in the 37th ASEAN ministerial meeting. And in ASEAN, there's also a declaration on the elimination of violence against women and elimination of violence against children, under which is the responsibility of ACWC. So ACWC is an intergovernmental and consultative bodies consisting of 20 representatives. Yeah, one representative concerned with women's rights. I'm the one in charge of women's rights in Indonesia, and the other one concerned with children's rights. So, and then the main mandate of the ACWC is to develop policies, to advocate, to conduct surveys, to monitor the implementation of the regional action plan on elimination of violence against women, as well as regional action plan on the elimination of violence against children. So to go back to the joint statement, this joint statement was issued to reaffirm all these commitments on elimination of violence against women, elimination of violence against children, as well as on the implementation of Hanoi Declaration on the enhancement of the welfare and development of ASEAN women and children, 2010, and the ASEAN Regional Plan of Action on the elimination of violence against women. So these are all the commitments of the head of the states or of the government in ASEAN. And why we also, the head of state also issued this, because we want to see that the conflict issues is not only looked as the security issues only, but women can be seen as the agent of peace. Women can become the agent for negotiators, like we already heard some stories and experience from our previous speakers, where women can also be seen as the as agents, not as only the subjects or the victims of conflicts or of social issues. That's why in ASEAN we also see that in order to promote the peace in ASEAN, we also can do it from women. Yeah, these are some of the examples as well from Ibu Ratih, from Ibu from the Philippines, that the women can play a very active role in that, because women have a very unique role in the family and in the domestic. They are more flexible, they are more open, they are more, they can be more approachable compared to the men. Although, on the other hand, we still have the gender bias. What Ibu Ratih said, she talked about gender bias. Well, gender bias is because some of us in ASEAN, or mostly, we are still living in patriarchal society, where men, perspectives are still regarded higher than women. That is our challenge. Yeah. So this Women, Peace and Security encourage all the member states. One is to integrate gender perspective in all conflict prevention initiatives and strategies, and ensure the full participation of women in peace process, such as conflict prevention and post-conflict reconstruction and rehabilitation processes. So meaning that the way we see it, the way ACW see it, that the implementation of this joint statement on women, peace and security is one strategy or one initiative for the ACWC to ensure that gender should be mainstream, not only in the one pillar, where ACWC is engaged in, which is only in the pillar of socio-cultural community pillar. But gender should also be integrated in other pillars. Yeah, so other pillars like economy and political and security, they should also have to integrate gender in all their work plan. Yeah, gender mainstreaming become a new strategy now in ASEAN. This is because our work in ASEAN as well, ACWC and ACW, ASEAN Committee on Women. Now we already conducted capacity building for all the sectoral bodies in ASEAN. This is in order to make sure that this document is not just merely a document, but should be implemented in all the pillars, in all the sectoral bodies under these pillars. That is one thing. And then the second one, that women should be empowered, not only during the conflict prevention initiative, but also to make sure that women should be involved as well as participated in post-conflict reconstruction and rehabilitation processes. This is what Ratih mentioned, that women not only as the peacekeepers, but they also involved in the post-conflict and reconstruction. So in ASEAN, we are also trying through this gender mainstreaming integrated in all the pillars and through their sectoral bodies. Now we are in the process of developing what we call a strategic framework for engendering the sectoral bodies in ASEAN. So this is our work in ASEAN in terms of the three pillars, in terms of ensuring that gender perspective integrated into all the pillars. Because we can see that in order to promote peace, again, women as the agents, but it's not only the responsibility of one pillar or one body. So gender mainstreaming become the main strategy that we use in implementing the joint statement. So that is one thing. So after the statement, what is the progress? First of all, in 2018, during Indonesia's leadership at the time, we already have what we call ASEAN-Australia Women, Peace and Security Dialogue, which is held in Melbourne in 2018. At the time, the meeting outcome is, we call it outcome document with recommendations. So this meeting involved all the stakeholders, both from Indonesia side and the Australian side, such as representative of civil service, military, police, civil society community, as well as the academias. So in this dialogue, we discuss on the implementation of this joint statement. So this joint statement again become our platform for discussion. Now Australia is also committed to help ACWC in furthering this commitment, because from the 2018 dialogue, there are some recommendations that need to be followed up by all of us. For example, we need in the future to have a national, regional action plan in ASEAN. In Indonesia, we already have a national action plan. We don't call it National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, but the substance of this Women, Peace and Security Resolution 1325 is embedded in our National Action Plan. We call it National Action Plan on the Protection and Empowerment of Women and Children in Social Conflict. Yeah, at the time, yeah, Bu Fitri, were you there? I don't know, but very, because I was the one chairing the meeting. So we invited in 2012, invited all the sectoral bodies from the ministries, and so many ministries really against us to use the resolution 1325, because it's just a resolution, they said. It's not even a convention on UN convention. So at the end, we managed to find the solution. Okay, our umbrella is the Indonesian Constitution, yeah, and Pancasila, yeah. So we, through this, and then everybody agreed, okay, resolution is just a part of this big Constitution and Pancasila. Because at the end of the day, what we want is to create a peaceful community, to promote the welfare of the people, as well as to make sure that everyone has equal rights. So that's why in the end, we managed to have the Presidential Decree 2014, number 8, 2014, on the protection and empowerment of women and children in social conflict, becoming our base for the implementation of 1325 resolution. Yeah. Now, based on this presidential decree, in 2014, at the time Menko Kesra, now is the coordinating Ministry of Pembangunan Manusia, Social Development and Culture. This is the coordinator of this president decree. Issued the government regulation on the need for its government ministry in the government to formulate national action plan. Yeah, we call it, I mentioned before, National Action Plan on the protection and empowerment of women and children in social conflict, which is actually this is women, peace and security. You know, and based on that, as the mechanism to implement this, the government also set up what they call working group, as well as steering committee. So the members of the working groups coming from all ministries, including Ministry of Women and Child Protection, and then the working groups and the steering committee is from all the ministries, and then the chair of this steering committee is the Menko Kesra at the time, or Menko PMK. Okay, so based on this, all sectoral bodies in Indonesia should also have the programs and projects with regard to the implementation of women, peace and security in Indonesia. Not only that, based on this regulation as well, Presidential Decree number 8, 2014, we also advocate governors and district levels to also have the local action plan. So that is what already been done, and some of the activities, for instance, from the Ministry of Women, we already started giving training for women as the agent of peace. So we work together with Wahid Foundation. You know Wahid Foundation? Initiated by Bu Yeni. Bu Yeni initiated the Peace Village. So this Peace Village was selected among all provinces, and we ended up selecting the Peace Village implemented in West Java, Eastern Java, and Central Java, where the provinces are quite vulnerable to conflict. And then from these 3 provinces, then there are 9 pilots. So the Ministry of Women, together with Wahid Foundation, developed Peace Village. What is the Peace Village? This is the role of the women in the community involved in trying to promote the Gus Dur's core values. Ya, Pak Gus Dur ya, Pak Presiden, our former President Gus Dur was very known for his diverse, his support for tolerance, for peace, for democracy, for gender equality, for pluralism, and all of this. So all this core knowledge disseminated to the peace through the women communities. Yeah, so the women once again regarded as a very important person in the family and community to promote peace, tolerance. So this is the Peace Village. But because the village that we chose also facing, economic insecurity, discrimination. That's why not only we promote all these core values, but we also, the entry point is also to empower women in the economy. Okay, so the economic empowerment of women is the entry point for us later on to instill these values. For instance, we developed one village focused on, developing, for instance, a laundry shop. Usually the women door to door, help with the washing of the close of the family, and then through this Fabe Foundation and us together, we make them into a team, and then a unit, and then they're given the training on the economic empowerment and training on how to run a shop, a cookie shop or laundry shop, or even the handicap shop, and then they form a cooperatives together, and then based on that, afterwards they are also trained on the issues on the core values of Gus Dur. So that is one example of the village village in Indonesia. Now in ASEAN we haven't reached that far, because like I mentioned before, the joint statement on women, peace and security just introduced 2 years ago, 2017. And in 2018, we just started the dialogue with Australia on how to move forward, and we have some recommendation to do that. But in ACWC, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, we discussed together how to move this joint statement forward. And then in the end, plus Laos, we look for support, and then luckily we got the support from U.S. Progress, from the USAID, government of America, as well as Australia. They would like to support us in developing the programs. Yeah. So in 2019, we have the regional training. In Indonesia, we have regional training on women, peace and security, and in 2019, organized by Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In ACWC this year, we conducted regional symposium on implementing women peace agenda in ASEAN from 22 to 22nd, 23rd August in 2019 in Phnom Penh. This is the first ever discussed in ASEAN. Yeah. In 2019. So in this symposium, we invited all the related stakeholders to talk about the situation of women in ASEAN, what is the relevant policies and the challenges. And after the symposium, and then ACWC plans to have more further programs. There are several plans that we have. I like to mention. Actually, there are 4. Yeah, we call it work plan. Yeah. After the symposium, we will have the regional study on women, peace, security to assess progress, review trends, examine persistent and emerging challenges, and capture lessons learned and good practices related to the 4 pillars of women, peace and security agenda. So there are 4 pillars in women's peace and security agenda. One pillar is participation of women. The second is how to prevent conflict and how to involve women in prevention of social conflict. The third pillar is on the protection of women as victims, women and children as victims. And the fourth pillar is how women can also be involved in relief and recovery, or we call it reconstruction and rehabilitation. So the first one, after this symposium, we will do this regional study first. Maybe we will do that this is ongoing, supported by U.S. Progress. After that, after the study, we are looking into 1 or 6 month, 1 year study. After the study, we will establish a network of, actually we already established a network of women, peace and security experts, advocates, and practitioners to enhance the knowledge and experience exchange beyond the region. So after the Phnom Penh Symposium, now we already have the network of the experts among ACW, ASEAN Committee on Women, expertise, and ACWC expertise or experts. This is a forum for us to discuss further what we are going to do next, and also as to share experiences and best practices on the implementation of this joint statement. And then later on, like I mentioned before, our plan is how to incorporate the women, peace, security agenda into policies and programs of the 3 pillars. Our entry point is firstly to gender mainstreaming strategy, because this strategy, because in ASEAN we already have the joint commitment on the implementation of gender mainstreaming in all the ASEAN pillars. Yeah, because Gender is cross-cutting issues, and it should be integrated into all the 3 pillars. And we already started with training all the 3 pillars sectoral bodies. So this is already conducted previous 2 years. Now we are in the process of developing a regional framework on how to institutionalize this gender mainstream in all the 3 pillars. And then lastly, during the Beijing Plus 25 in Bangkok, so I represent the Minister of Women to be the head of the delegate for the evaluation of the implementation of Beijing 25. We, ASEAN, ACWC, together with UN Women, we had a side event on women, peace, and security as well. So I was also one of the speakers as well. So during the big session on the evaluation, on the sideline, we have this side event also to discuss on the women, peace, and security agenda as the implementation of the joint statement, as well as in view of the 20th year commemoration of the UN Security Resolution number 1325 in 2020. So in 2020, we also thinking of something, bigger. Maybe we can work together at the national level with Ibu Fitri again, because this is quite sexy now in ASEAN. Everybody now talk about women, peace, and security, and I think we have to really make sure that it's not only a jargon or just a paper, but we have to make sure that at the regional level we also have. I was thinking during our side event in Bangkok, I was proposing that in ASEAN we should also have a general action plan as well on women, peace, and security, not only in national level. Okay, because I know in Europe they already have the regional action plan, and Africa, and then in some of the ASEAN member states already have the national action plan, but not in ASEAN. So this is quite challenging, but I'm looking forward that joint statement is going to be, strengthened with a lot more commitment, real commitment, more action-oriented commitment in ASEAN. So I think that's what I can share. In Indonesia, we have started in 2014, and the challenge, not all government agencies committed to the funding, the programs. So we need to push further for the national action plan in 2020 to 2024, because our plan just ended in 2019, yeah. This year, 2014, but a lot of challenges, yeah. When you talk about the budget, when you talk about the commitment, it's a lot of challenges as well. I think in ASEAN the same, yeah. I think that's all. I stop. Thanks very much for your attention.
I have a lot of questions myself, but I don't think it's fair to have our participant here that want to ask question to you. So maybe I just throw the question to you, and then maybe I open the floor for the question to the 3 distinguished panelists today. Yeah, my question is exactly the same. Indonesia and the Philippines has a national action plan, and the Philippines has the gender and development budget that allocates around 5% of all government budget to allocate for gender empowerment. The issue that Indonesia, I think, perceived from the evaluation of National Action Plan 2014 that will be implemented until end of this year, 2019, is the getting commitment of the budget. The question is, of course, our national action plan then implemented to the regional, local action plan in Aceh, in several tension area in the region, in Indonesia. But where's the budget coming from, and whether having other ministries on board is also a challenge. And I have this discussion for the activists and then people that work on the previous National Action Plan in Indonesia. It takes 5 years almost, or even more, to come to a National Action Plan into 2014. How long will we have our next National Action Plan? Meanwhile, the Philippines already adopted the second National Action Plan. So it's Indonesia homework, and bring it to the Southeast Asian level. There are countries that are having their own issues. We're not saying that they are disapprove of women, peace, and security, but sometimes they have issues of economic development, of other issues that maybe women, peace, and security is not yet the priorities. For example, countries in the more of a landlocked, not the archipelagic ASEAN, because a different developmental state. How to convince this country to adopt a regional action plan on women, peace, and security. Meanwhile, they're still struggling to have the budget being paying for the ASEAN contribution. So that's my question, and perhaps our question together. Perhaps I would open the opportunities from the floor to raise question to our expert here. Opportunities is yours. First, I see the lady in the hijab, and then maybe our student there, and then maybe Habib, and then we go to our colleague here. So 2 women and 2 men, very gender equal. Perhaps we can all start it, collect all the question and answer at the same time, and open on one session. Please use the mic.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aulia from Pusat Studi Gender STI Alan Jakarta. If I'm not mistaken, Indonesia have a national action plan for promote peace, but haven't implemented well because of budgeting and etc. and another reason. But we have big agenda to promote this agenda in the local and regional. So I'm so curious when we refer to how the unique role of women in the promote peace have a significant role. How we as a woman and as a civilization can be part of to promote peace in the local. Because we know that we talk about terrorism, it's come in the local, and how we make it run well, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Aulia. Next, can you introduce yourself, organization, and question? Thank you.
Good afternoon to the board. Okay. My name is Pristi. I'm from Universitas Bakri, and currently I'm doing a research of female peacekeepers and my questions would not be about how women, peace, and security agenda is being implemented in conflicts that takes place in ASEAN, but today I want to know more about how Indonesia and ASEAN is devoting or putting their commitments into actions to peacekeeping missions, especially in deploying peacekeepers, especially their female peacekeepers. So there are 2 questions, and I would like Dr. Fitri and Letkol Ratih to give me some insights about this. So the first question is, what are the challenges and opportunities that Indonesia and ASEAN have in order to increase the number of uniformed female peacekeepers to UN peacekeeping missions? And the second one is, how effective is the gender training as pre-deployment training, which given by DPKO to Indonesian uniformed peacekeepers, able to accommodate a more inclusive protection for women and children in conflict and tackle gender-based violence and also conflict-related sexual violence? Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Maybe we turn to Habib.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Habib with CSIS. So if I may, I'd like to raise question for each speaker. The first question will be for Ibu Ratih, definitely. It's very interesting story back then. But my question will be, is there any, the ongoing issue about the female peacekeeper is about the existing of sexual violences. Whether you have ever heard about this when you were on the ground, and then how was the fact back then, and also how is the current situation, if you also could share about the current situation, and then about the government of Indonesia, whether they really practice or mainstream about gender among peacekeeping training right now. And then for Mimi, so it is very interesting story about women as a combatant, particularly as we are aware communism is still existing in Philippines, and then how actually the government takes into account, the gender approach to deal with this woman combatant, particularly from communism. And then the last one for Ibu Sri Danti, if I may, Bu, we do know that ASEAN, as you also mentioned before, is divided into three communities, IPSC, IACC, and also IAC. However, as we are aware that this issue is apparently lying on the political and security pillar, but somehow the movement raised more from the ASEAN social and cultural pillar. And then the critical issue here is, I think, the strategic sector reform or military security sector reform. How is actually ASEAN sectoral bodies could assist member states or could encourage member states to enhance more numbers of women in security sector reforms, and then how the ACWC in particular probably approaches this issue, and also to coordinate with other sectoral ASEAN agencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Habib. Last question. If it's for Professor Mimi, I can write it down and tell her, but
Thank you.
please.
All right, my name is Rico from Sahid University, and I have one question for all panelists today. And I was a volunteer as well when I was like 20. I'm now 24. I was a volunteer in Vietnam, in Philippines, and then joined the War Heritage Volunteer that we held every year. And my question is that after I come back from these countries, my friends, personally my friends, and they will ask me like, wow, that's so cool that you went to this country, but that's not what they meant. I mean, like you were there, you didn't get paid to be a volunteer. So my question is that, what skill set is needed? Because with the growth of technology and economy, skill set is also evolving. And I know that Ibu Ratih also mentioned that you have to be adaptive, you have to be flexible, but I don't think that's enough for today's. Like, volunteer is unpaid. Sometimes you just go there and then you do certain job that you never did before. And this is quite challenge for your, especially like me. I'm still young, but still I sometimes I don't know how to answer those people this question. Like, okay, you went to this country, but as a volunteer, I want to know like what skill set is needed, and then what will be the challenge for them right now to go to be a volunteer, especially in war zone, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you for all the question. Perhaps we can give the opportunities to maybe in the same sequence as the presenter. Maybe let's call Ratih to answer the question. I think there is many questions in regard to peacekeeper deployment, as well as Indonesia commitment and condition in the mission area, as well as the skill set for a volunteer, UN volunteer.
Terima kasih. Tadi Aulia lebih ke Ibu ya, Mbak Aulia ya. Pristi, tadi nggak di sini ya waktu saya cerita tentang challenges-nya, opportunities-nya. Ya, ntar kita ngobrol berdua aja. Kalau gender training for peacekeepers, in my opinion and based on my experiences, is more like open mind for men, not for women, because we can do what they ask to do. They ask us to do as a women peacekeeper. It's more for the men counterpart, like pasukan Garuda or Garuda contingent kita yang pria itu, mereka jadi, oh ya jangan kaget, we can find a private itu kopral ya kalau di kita, cewek bawa tangki, truk tangki. Some of them they said, Major Ratih, you cannot do that. Of course I cannot do that because I'm not training to do that. I'm higher than her. Saya sampai sombong-sombongan lah. Jadi saya bilang, we have to separate the case. Nggak bisa bilang bahwa cewek Indonesia, tentara Indonesia nggak bisa tuh suruh jaga, suruh ini nggak mau ini gini. Hey wait, have you ever told to do that or not? Or ada perintah nggak untuk melakukan itu? For us as a military, order is the order. Kalau nggak ada perintah untuk itu ya nggak akan kita lakuin dong. Itu. Jadi gender training more effective for men. Even they just shock culture for them, yes. So they see that ceweknya jaga rumah monyet. Tahu kan rumah monyet yang penjagaan depan itu kita kalau nyebut rumah monyet kan ya. Kok Indonesian women enggak? Then I asked the commander battalion, give order to them, even only daytime. For foreign military, women military, seperti yang satu. Jadi we have in the same compound, Indonesia and South Africa. The South African, they have about 5 or 10 women peacekeeper, and Indonesia, all men. That's for engineering company. When I was there, I saw the two ladies 24 hours guarding the gate. Ya, kalau di kita jaga rumah monyet lah. Terus when I was in Lebanon, then I asked the battalion commander, Mas, kasih dong perintah biar nunjukin kalau kita juga bisa. And they did it. And now they do it. Even in daytime. It's only daytime. Karena malam masih takutlah rawan. Nah itu eman-eman loh. Arek wedok engko nek kenapa-napa. Ya, Pristi ya. Mas Habib, women peacekeepers on sexual gender violence. Oh, sexual violence. Mas, in my experiences, for us as a UN staff, military, which is not permanent, or the civilian as the permanent staff, we have strict rules about sexual harassment or violation. So for peacekeepers, ya lu senang gua senang ya ayo jadi nggak masalah. Tapi for harassment almost zero. But men peacekeepers to the local ladies, some of them have this case, especially the African peacekeepers. Itu yang in Indonesian ya, seperti itu situasinya. For us from the Indonesian, in battalion or in contingent, we have chaplain ya kalau bahasa Inggrisnya ya, perwira pembinaan mental untuk rohani. So we have Pabintal Muslim, Islam, Christian, Hindu, came from all the contingent members. So that's one of some ways that we use in the mission. In the mission is the time is our enemy. It's not the enemy on the field, but the time. Because 1 year there in the mission, with the situation like that, and we have more spare time after doing our own job, and what do we do? That will be the problem. So most of the time it's come from the time. If you can manage, then your life in the mission will be a beautiful one. If you're not, Ya agak-agak gendeng dikit lah, bisa. Rico, skill set. What did you do there in the places where you volunteer yourself?
I joined one of the program from UNESCO, World Heritage Volunteer, in Philippines, in Banaue, Madam, and then in Vietnam, in Hanoi, in Halong Bay. So every time I come back from this country, those people will always ask me that, well, that was really cool, but that's not cool. I mean, you have to learn how to, like you said, adaptive, flexible. You don't get paid. What they meant cool is that you met volunteer from all around the world, but it's just bonus, So I think I think right now for women, they need like skill set, to be before they put themselves in the. Because for men, I think volunteer I can do that, but I don't know if sometimes I get question from my girlfriends, like I don't know, I just don't know how to answer that, because from male perspective, it's I think quite different to answer that. So yeah, I just don't know how.
So tell them, be brave.
Yes.
That's it. If you're not brave enough to go overseas, you will never have that experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
Iya kan? Kalau nggak punya keberanian untuk keluar dari kandang, zona nyaman, kita tuh kalau sudah di zona nyaman berhenti, wis.
Iya, betul.
Ya. So skill set mostly, if it is in UNV UN volunteer, there is a specific requirement. It is for air transportation, it is for administration, IT, law, many, logistic, water treatment. Most of our, the Indonesian civilian in UNV, most of them in air ops, like in a logistic, in a cargo, some kind like that. The lady also. I met one lady from Semarang. Now she's in Canada, stay with her husband from Pakistan. She has a knowledge about logistic. So she was there in Congo for logistic branch. So open unjobs.org, then you will see what requirement that they need for you to join them. Ya. Dan teman-teman ceweknya bilang aja, kalau enggak di sana ke Lemhanas ketemu Bu Ratih.
Betul,
gitu.
karena mereka kan cuma nyari kayak apa sih, kayak benefit, kayak jalan-jalannya aja gitu.
Ya, no. Kalau model-model yang Barbie gitu enggak usah wis ya, ngerepoti kok. Enggak bisa. That's why I said be brave, be flexible, be adaptive, because that's what you need in anywhere, I think. Not only in the mission. Because if you still keep saying, aduh enak nih ada chat time. Come on, where are you now? Nggak bisa kayak gitu. Ya Mas ya, kalau butuh dosen nanti panggil gue aja Mas. Sip.
Okay, so we have Colonel Ratih ready for giving training for the next UNV deployment. Hopefully we have more women there working in women, peace and security. Next, maybe I call for Professor Mimi to answer the question addressed to you.
On the volunteer. Okay, first I'd like to answer the question of Habib, the one on how the government deals with female communists. So currently the army is still coming up with a manual on how to deal with female combatants of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army. With respect to the Marawi siege, we already have the hijab troopers. They have underwent special training on Muslim culture, identity, and the like. But the one of the communist insurgency, the military is still coming up with a manual for that. Okay, and then for the question on the UN volunteers, I think that we have to appreciate the presence also of young American volunteers, the Peace Corps volunteers who are all over Asia, and also the one of the Japanese volunteers through JICA, and the Korean volunteers. So actually, the youth of the other countries, they go and give their expertise to the countries in Southeast Asia, the Japanese, the Koreans, and also the Peace Corps volunteers. These are American volunteers who work in the in the regions. With respect to the Philippines, in the Philippines, I would say, we study foreign languages. So normally the young people, for example, for me, I studied Japanese. So after you study the language, your parents push you to go to that country to practice your language. So I went to Japan, my sister went to Norway, my brother went to Germany. So during summer, during the school break, you go to the country where you're studying. So I studied Latin and Spanish, so I went to Spain, I went to Italy. That kind of experience, intermingling with people of different cultures, it opens up a different perspective for you. That's why travel changes you. That's why what Colonel Ratih said, that you have to be brave, you have to be adaptive. That is essential. But at the same time, you also have to be adventurous. And one way that will help you adjust is to know the language of the country where you're going. Know the language, the culture, the customs, because wherever we go, we have to respect the customs there. You have to respect their cultural milieu. You just don't go there and change it. As we say, when you go to Rome, do as the Romans do. Okay, so that's it. And for the Filipinos, since we all study a foreign language, the younger generation now, they prefer Korean. They prefer Korean, and then German, and then of course, many are studying Russian now, Russian and Chinese. So I think they will spend a lot of time there. And then once you have gone there, you would like to work there or to volunteer there. So it's natural. It's a natural process. So in my family, my two sisters now one is in Norway, the other one is in France. But prior to that, they studied French, they studied Norwegian. And when they went there, of course, they saw a fine young guy, and they got married to a European. So now they're European citizens. Similarly, my brothers, they went to Germany. So it's like that. It's natural. It's not something that you push yourself to do. It has to be adventurous. It has to be spontaneous at times. And I think the Indonesian youth are smarter than the Filipino youth now. So I think you can really spread your good values, share the Indonesian Pangkasila values, which is very important. Share it to the world. So my message to the Indonesian youth is, don't be greedy. Why? You have Pangkasila, which is your strength, which is your cultural identity. It strengthens. And that same Pangkasila, you can share it with ASEAN, you can share it with Europe, you can share it with the US, North Africa, and the Middle East. So it's a sharing, and then the other cultures will accept that Pangkasila values, and then you have the beautiful unity. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mimi, for reminding us about the Pancasila. Well, it's something that we can always return to, and I hope that not all, it's good to volunteer to Germany, to Japan, and all of these places. Maybe we would have more volunteer vacancy in the peacekeeping mission in Africa, where the problematic area is region is still tens of UN mission still available, and also I think the input of language skill is very important. I would now go to our last speaker, Ibu Danti, to answer the question. Time is yours.
Terima kasih. Pertama Mbak Aulia ya. Nah kalau di Filipina kan tadi ada 5% budget. Kalau di Indonesia mekanismenya beda. So in our National Development Plan 20 long term ya, 2000 until 2024, which is translated into mid National Development Plan, one of the strategies that should be implemented by all government institutions from the national level to the subnational level is gender mainstreaming. So gender mainstreaming is not a program, it's not a project, it's not activity, but it's a strategy. Yeah, there are 5 more strategies that should be mainstream, which means that from the ministers, the governors, the mayors, Panglima TNI, polisi, semua itu dari atas sampai bawah, semuanya itu harus melaksanakan strategi pengaruh utaman gender. Tujuannya apa? Tujuannya agar bisa mewujudkan kesetaraan keadilan gender dan pemberdayaan perempuan dari berbagai bidang. Ya, jadi yang namanya government institution kan banyak tuh institusinya, ada dari pendidikan sampai politik, ekonomi dan lain sebagainya. Nah, mereka itu harus melakukan strategi pengaruh utamaan gender ini dari tahapan from the policies, programs and activities of respective body, ya. And it's starting from where? From the planning. Jadi semua perencanaan itu dikoordinasikan oleh Bappenas, semua kementerian lembaga di pusat maupun juga di daerah lewat Bapedaknya. Mereka harus mulai memasukkan isu-isu gender. Makanya data terpilah menjadi penting. Ya, jadi dari planning, setelah planning mereka tahu isunya, misalnya di pendidikan isu gendernya apa sih? Lihat datanya kan, disaggregated data and statistic data. Oh, there's still discrepancy in the achievement of misalnya girls participation, atau there is still a lot of women who are illiterate. So the budget should be, makanya from the planning, budgeting, implementation, monitoring, evaluasi with a gender perspective. Jadi anggaran responsif gender inilah hasilnya dari planning and budgeting tadi munculnya ARG. Jadi kalau contohnya tadi gender issue in education, oh we still have from the data we can see that women are still left behind in the literacy rate. So the budget anggaran, the gender responsive budgeting should targeted to this group of women. Ini dari pusat sampai daerah sama prosesnya, from the planning. Makanya now the government has already the musrembang, okay, from the desa until the national level, they have to have this data. Yeah, so we don't have a 5% budget, but it can be 100% budget go to this gender equality and women empowerment. Jadi bisa 100% kuenya itu tergantung kepada how we use this to this gender with analytical analisis perspektif gender, ya. Itu satu. Dan sekarang actually it started in 2000. So the gender mainstreaming implementation in Indonesia started with the issuance of presidential decree number 9 of 2000 on gender mainstreaming in national development. In 2006 we started with piloting into 4 agencies, namely Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, and PU. Now it already almost all, because we evaluate yearly before, and now we evaluate 2 yearly. We are giving the gender award. You heard about Anugerah Parahita Eka Praya, giving all these stakeholders, the ministers and governors and mayors, the best in implementing GMS. So that is based on the gender mainstreaming strategy, and we have the mechanism, we have the working group. So they are actually there are 7 prerequisite in order to be able to implement gender mainstreaming. One is the commitment. The high level commitment is needed. Yeah, for instance, there is a regulation policies issued by the governors or ministers on gender equality, women's empowerment. The second one, you have to have the human resources. All the planners should understand how to conduct gender analysis in their planning and budgeting. The third one is you have to have the institutional mechanism in each ministry and at the national and at the local level. They have to have the working group or focal point, gender focal point in place. Yeah. And then they have the tool to analyze. We already established the gender analysis pathway tool to be used by all the stakeholders. And they should have the data. Data is a must. This is a challenge. In each program, they sometimes don't have the disaggregated data. And the last one is community participation. So on the whole, in order to make sure that gender is planning and budgeting implemented, we also already have 4 drivers or 4 leaders. One Ministry of Finance as one of the driver in terms of the planning. The second Ministry of Planner. One is Ministry of Finance for the budgeting. We have the tech. Now we already developed the tech in each ministry that if they have the tech in their budgeting, meaning that they have to have the gender responsive budgeting. So Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Home Affairs for the coordination at the local level, Ministry of Women for the capacity building of all these planners or advocacy for all this for higher level commitment, and for the facilitation of gender planning, gender analysis training. And then now the fifth one, the new one, we are now going to elevate the presidential decree into the Perpres, Ministry of Desa, because we also have the budget at the desa level. Yeah? So we have started the GRB from the village until the national level. That is our mechanism. So we evaluate it every year and we give award every 2 years. Okay. There are some, and then the categorization of the mainstreaming also varied from each ministry until the government agency. The highest level is the mentor. Now the mentor is West Java, meaning that they can be, everybody can learn from their best practice. The second one is the Utama, and then the lowest one is the Pratama. You just started, and then the medium you already start, and then you have some progress. And the Utama, you can see the outcome in the community. Okay, so women, peace and security, we also use this kind of strategy, okay, with this gender mainstreaming in women, peace and security. So that's why I can share with you some of the activities from MOE, but I think the time is constrained. I can share after this. And then some of the ministries as well already started, there are now more than 14 ministries that already have the medium and Utama award, meaning that they are already more than just the awal-awal, yeah. And our strategy is not only using this strategy actually, but we also have to include men. So that's why in 2015, Pak Jokowi has become one of the champion for he for she in the world. Yeah, there are 10 head of the leaders in the world, and one of them is Pak Jokowi, he for she. Because most of our countries are still male-dominated, patriarchal society. It's not enough just to talk between us women, like Arisan, trying to change the world, trying to change the gender norms, which is not very, adaptive to the gender equality. So we also have to work together with the men, especially the high level, yeah, because Indonesia still patronage, looking at the pimpinan, So there, we already started with Pak Jokowi in the world, and then we already encourage the governors, like Ridwan Kamil, and East Java, and all these, those who already the mentor group in JMS becoming our champion. So you have a lot of gender champions as well at the local level. Jadi regional action plan dan local action plan juga memakai gender perspektif sama dengan caranya gender mainstreaming di berbagai bidang ini, including in women, peace and security. Okay, still a lot of challenge, tapi we are still now I just finish drafting gender equality bill, ya, sebetulnya udah 10 tahun, tapi DPR-nya nggak cocok. Oke, kalau gitu kita gender mainstreamingnya aja deh gitu, walaupun judulnya RUU Kesetaraan Gender, tapi sebetulnya mengelevate Impres nomor 9 tahun 2000 tentang PUG itu. Tapi di dalamnya in the first chapter we take the CEDAW principle gitu loh. So there would be non-discriminatory, substantive gender equality, affirmative action, itu harus ada gitu. And the second part is you talk about gender mainstreaming not only within the executive body. Kalau Impres itu kan hanya executive level. Tapi di Gender Equality Bill ini kita dorong juga untuk parlemen. Apalagi bicara gender budgeting, parlemen is also responsible kan. Jadi parlemen, judiciary body, kemudian masyarakat juga harus bersama-sama melaksanakan gender mainstreaming untuk gender equality. Itu progres saat ini, ya. Nah, untuk women, peace and security mudah-mudahan there will be another action plan, ya. In ASEAN, Mas Habib, I mentioned kan we just started. Now you right in mentioning this is under the coordination APAC. Now that's why this year APAC just coordinated us to conduct this workshop in Bali. We call it Bali Plan. So we just finished drafting what we call a Bali Plan on, let me check the wording. draft action plan of action to prevent and counter the rise of radicalization and violent extremism, 2019-2025. So this is one plan that that is trying to integrate all these three pillars, yeah, from the economic pillar to social cultural pillar and then APC pillar, all sitting together, and we discuss on the work plan. So what are you going to do in terms of the economy level? So what are the sectoral bodies involved? ACWC is involving in the preventive and promotion of women and gender equality in peace. Ya, itu masuk di situ. Ya, jadi kita sekarang di ASEAN bukan hanya bicara women, peace and security, tapi bagaimana memasukkan prevention of violent extremism, karena itu sekarang yang kita hadapi, radikalisasi, intolerism. Even in Indonesia, our action plan facilitated by Aman Indonesia, we already try to integrate prevention of violent extremism into our national action plan. Gitu. Jadi itu masuk di situ semua. Ya. Dan terakhir tadi kelupaan Mbak Aulia, kan katanya dari daerah tuh banyak terornya, ya makanya pakai peace village itu pendekatannya. Bagaimana dari desa, dari desa kita kerjasama dengan komunitas perempuan, lewat mulut perempuan, lewat apa perempuan kita berdayakan. Biasanya kan radikalisme itu di-trigger from economic inequality kan, makanya women kita train together as a group with economic, misalnya tadi saya contohkan ada laundry shopnya, ya kan apa laundry gitulah, terus bikin cookies. Nah dari situ kan dimasukkan nilai-nilai toleransi, nilai-nilai peace, itu lewat perempuan, nanti perempuan akan bicara ke keluarganya, ke young generation, ke komunitas yang ada di sana. Jadi sekali lagi entry point-nya memang women, karena women itu memang dilihat sebagai orang yang memang sebagai pilar di komunitas gitu. Saya rasa itu. Peace village.
Thank you so much.
Ada dana desa.
Thank you so much for the present and the sharing of knowledge for our speaker. Can we give applause to the three speakers? Thank you for all for coming here and staying with us throughout the discussion. I was just being informed that the lunch is ready on the next room. It's not, we don't declare it openly because people will come here only for the food. So, but it's there on the next room. And if you are having fasting, I know some Ibu Danti is fasting on Senin Kamis. So yeah, you're very good that managed to like give very true explanation. The food is in boxes, so if you're also busy, you can bring it home. Again, thank you very much for your presence, and can we give applause for all and then close this event? Thank you.